Wasn't sure if Judge Butts,
Yes, one by
I
one.
remember she said she's
Got
calling
sprayed.
in or if she's
No.
coming here.
It'll take 30 minutes, but I've screened it, now I got a orbital sander, I got a, so I get that done, get that back to Dave. So I might sand this weekend. It's in the garage, so it can rain.
Scott, yeah, see Scott. He's coming.
Good morning, who's on the line?
Morning, this is Austin White.
Hi, Austin.
Morning, Austin.
Morning.
According to Matt, Scott will be here.
Rick's here. He's going to be upstairs. So I think he's going to call in.
Okay.
Yeah, that's great.
Good morning, who joined?
Hi, good morning, it's Jill.
Hi, Jill. How are you on a sunny Friday?
Oh, it's ready. Got the golf clubs out, but my knee's not capable of golfing.
No way. Just gotta get that knee working.
Who else is on the line?
Just Jill and Austin right now.
Okay, we have Rick. Rick, did you call in yet?
No, he didn't. He did not join. We do not have a quorum at this point, but once Scott gets here or Commissioner Marabito checks in, he will, that'll give us 4. Oh, here he comes right now.
Oh. Sorry, sir. Gives us 4. Yeah.
If you,
I think we can start.
yeah, it's your call.
Okay, we have a quorum.
We have a quorum.
Okay, good morning, everyone. This time I'd like to convene the prison board and seek approval of the previous minutes. Could I have a motion, please?
I'll make a motion.
Second? Commissioner? Second?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So sorry.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. This time we'll seek public comment on agenda items only.
Who just joined the call?
Someone just joined the call?
Yes, that was me, Judge Bott.
Hi, Judge.
Hello.
Hi, who just joined?
Ryan.
Good morning, Ryan.
Morning.
Okay. Okay, we'll seek approval of the bills. Could I have a motion?
I'll move to approve.
Commissioner Marabito first,
I'll second.
second by
Ryan,
me.
the second.
Okay. Any comments? Okay. And the
What
only-
is the, excuse me, Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
the C cap for 14,000, are those dues?
Yeah.
Those, yes, those are, well, those are the monies that we pay in for medical billing. When we pay, they review all of our medical bills, so it's dues, I guess, or fees that we pay to CCAP in order for them
Through,
to.
it's the PIMIC?
Yes,
Okay, yeah,
yes.
and that's the once a year?
Yep.
Okay.
The only thing I'd like to bring attention to is the $40,000 in
Housing fees.
housing fees just in Center County alone. So we have inmates in Center, Clinton, and,
Well, we're paying for inmates in Center for overcrowding
Yes.
and in Clinton County for overcrowding.
for overcrowding.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah, right now, our bed space is very limited. We started the day today with, in our quarantine blocks, we had no male beds in our quarantine blocks. We only had 8 beds total in the entire building for males. We're better on females. We have 4 quarantine beds and 9 available beds. But yeah, we're at very large capacity. We had a group of inmates that were brought back for jury selection, which is occurring this week. So depending upon whether or not they picked a jury and they have trial coming up, perhaps the sheriff's office is looking at returning them.
Okay. Do we have anyone in the prison tested positive for COVID?
Not at this time.
No. Okay. All right, and we have, I think the last I saw was like 21 U.S. federal inmates.
We contract with them for 15 that they pay us for, and we
Right.
are at 15 right now.
We're at 15.
Yes, and we have, there's 21 total, so there's 6 more that
Okay.
are held on local charges and also have a federal.
Oh, okay, very good. All right, thank you. Any other questions? Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay, that motion carries. Now we'll go, approve personnel actions.
There's 2 personnel actions for the month of March. John Wagner, who is a full-time correctional officer relief at the prison, and Paige Kratzer, who's a full-time resident supervisor female at the pre-release center.
Okay, any comments? Could I have a motion to approve?
I'll move to approve.
Sherman has the motion.
Second.
Okay, did you get that? Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Now, I'd like to ask, how many vacancies as far as employees are you down?
12?
You're down 12.
Yes.
And are we still having forced overtime? Yes.
Yes.
An
Okay.
abundance. Yeah, an abundance of forced overtime.
Okay.
We have 12 vacancies. We have 4 interviews scheduled. Or we have 4 applicants that we're trying to reach out to schedule
Correct.
interviews. We had 2 interviews scheduled Thursday.
Yes, yesterday.
Yeah, both were no-shows. Or
They called,
cancellations.
canceled.
Right, cancellations. We received information that there's 3 officers currently that are pursuing other options outside of the county, are waiting on offers for other jobs. So we're looking to go down 3 more officers on top of this. And I guess just on top of that, we were, the 2 deputy wardens and I were at a wardens conference at the beginning of this week and sharing a lot of information with other county departments, and they're all in the same boat.
They're all the same.
Yeah, they're some of the bigger counties are down as many officers as we have total. They're 50, 60 inmate, or 50, 60 staff down and trying to hire in ways, but it's just, I think the state is also down,
They
so
are.
they're looking to fill vacancies, and typically they'll look to the counties to do it. They come in and recruit our staff,
Mhm.
but yeah, there's certainly some issues with their staffing and,
Yeah.
and coming and getting ours.
I spoke to a young lady who was down in one of the state facilities who said that they were down like 300 and some people.
Yeah.
So this is going to be a problem.
Or do, someone with you don't need a degree to get hired, right? Just a
Correct.
high school degree.
Correct.
Do we have any candidates who come with criminal justice degrees from college or from a community college?
Yes, we actually have a gentleman that we've extended an offer. He's accepted. He is at Lycoming College and will be graduating in May. So we do hire people from the local colleges. I've seen that happen more in the past. We're not getting as many applicants from our local colleges. Even when you branch out a little bit, when you go to Lock Haven, Penn State, Bloomsburg, some of the state schools in the area, we were usually able to draw some of their criminal justice students, but we're not getting as many as we have in the past.
When you say we could draw them, do they have like a career fair at those schools or job fair? Do we go to them? or-
We have attended those in the past, but they haven't had them for the last several years.
Oh, okay, with COVID and everything.
Yeah, but actually, and it's in the agenda, well, and actually, it's not in the agenda because it happened on April 1st. Deputy Warden Ebner and I just spoke at Lycoming College last Friday and met with a class and just extended that offer again, and that we spoke in Ed Robbins' class. Ed's a former chief juvenile probation officer, and let Ed know, and pass the word around to your students that if they're seeking employment, we are hiring.
Age requirement?
There was an informal age requirement of 21 years old. We have relaxed that a little because just out of necessity, and tried to hire a few. But we actually hired a gentleman that was a little younger than that. But we try to keep it right around that age. But we'll interview people now and get a good idea of whether they would be a good fit.
I was just trying to think if we could go to school superintendents, high school,
Yeah.
and see if we could speak to some of the students, maybe have something there that we could bring you, maybe a judge, and speak to a group coming right out of high school.
The other, I think the community colleges might also be more receptive than the four-year degree because they're coming out with less debt. So that whole question about what they make, their extra, they may have maybe a stepping stone like Luzerne Community College and some of the others we might want to. I think we kind of have to view it in the short term and the long term. In the short term, obviously, we do whatever we can. But in the long term, I think you might want to look at those community colleges. It might mean, if you go to Harrisburg Community College, it might mean somebody's tied up for half a day. But if we could establish the relationships with the community colleges, I think we would have a better draw than the four-year. But I could be wrong.
Well, Chief Spiegel was talking to us about him losing 2 more people at the Sheriff's Department now as well. And, we're going to see this continue. So we need to put our heads together collectively and figure out a strategy on how to recruit some people.
The commissioner's just not recruiting. We've got the numbers down at the prison, and then we go right back to the same scenario. It's retention. And when we went to the chamber event not too long ago, we had 3 HR directors there from the private sector, and they all said that 2022, and they even said down CCAP, 2022, it's not so much hiring, it's retention. Once you get that employee, how are you going to keep them? And we have to figure out a way to retain, because we can hire people, they get in there and they leave in 6 months, a year, and we're right back to, we're just definition, sanity is continue to do the same thing over and over and over without figuring out a solution. And we're doing the same thing over and over and over, and it's frustrating.
I don't know how much more we can go.
We have to figure out the way how to retain.
All right.
Deputy Chief Spiegel just told me that Hughesville has a criminal justice program in the CTC. I don't know if that's what you were referring to, Commissioner Macera.
Well, they do have a CTC program.
Yeah.
Both it's in Hughesville, Jersey Shore, and Williamsport right now are the 3 schools that I'm.
And what the
familiar
chief
with.
is saying is that
I was not aware of the criminal
Hughesville
justice.
has a criminal justice specifically.
Criminal
So that-
justice tract.
Yeah, have you been there?
Yes, we were there last month, myself and Rob Thompson. We currently have a young man that's doing like an internship from there, so we are utilizing our resources for that pool of people as well. So yes, Rob, I believe Rob was on the board at one time
Yeah, he was still
of that, so he's reached out his connections. So yes, out at PRC, we currently have someone, and if things, through that evolution, if it looks like a good fit, I believe they have to go to the end of June. It might be a potential hire out there, and we're short male rotators out there. So we've gone down that avenue, and I'd also like to say, every spring and fall, and it'll be coming up, I always reach out. I have a great working relationship with Dr. Richmond, as well as Craig Miller at Penn Tech, and I'll reach out and say, look, if you have some people that are getting done, they're not sure where their career is going, which happens quite a bit in young people, please send them our way. So it'll be time, and we get a few. But as the warden said, we don't seem to get as many as we did 5 years ago or Pat. We used to have a lot of, that wanted to get in and then work their way up in the county system. But we are tapping those local resources every spring and fall.
Okay. Where are we at?
We were finishing up with the personnel actions and then moving on to information.
Okay. We took the vote on that, correct? Yes. All right, let's move on to informational highlights.
Population report shows that the prison averaged 192.35 males and at the prison and 37.97 males at the pre-release center for an average daily population of 230.32 and a peak of 246 in the month. For females, we averaged 26.42 at the prison and 9.45 at the pre-release center for an average daily population of 35.87 and a peak of 40. Our average in-house daily population then was 266.19 with a peak of 286. Our in-home detention program carried an average of 34.19 male clients and 11.06 female clients. As we talked about earlier, we do still have overcrowding transfers. We're down to 18.58 average males per day and 2 average females per day for an average out of county of 20.58. Our total population then, with taking your in-house and your overcrowding transfers, was 286.77. Just a little bit lower than what our average has been for the year, but you can see that there's been an increase. We were at 303 in January, 275 in February. Now we're back up to 286 as an average daily population in March. March of last year, we were at 264.26. So we're still seeing the numbers go up from what we saw in March of 2021. Next report is the prison disciplinary report. The disciplinary committee, chaired by Deputy Warden Barnes, conducted 61 hearings in the month of March. Of those 61 hearings, 47 inmates were found guilty and received lockup time. 8 inmates were found guilty and their lockup time was suspended, and 6 inmates were found not guilty of the infractions. There were 47 different inmates that had write-ups in the month, and 11 of them had greater than 1 incident. There was also 16 informational reports generated by staff. And Ryan, do you wish to include any other information in that report?
No, I have nothing to add.
Pre-release center report follows that. Indicates that the monthly average of males on work crew was 38 and females was 9. That's a little higher than our year-to-date average of 35 and 7. The bail release program report for March follows that. It's the monthly cover sheet shows that we averaged 54.9 clients on supervised bail, 90.16 on intensive supervised bail, and 8.55 on supervised release serving driving under suspension sentences. That was an average then of 153.61 clients being served by the bail release program in the month of March. Those clients then saved 4,762 days at the prison. The mental health snapshot. This snapshot was taken on April 6th, and on that day, there was a total of 375 inmates in the prison system, 323 males and 52 females. Of that population, there were 202 total inmates that were found to be under roster A with no mental health history, and that was just above 50% of the population, 53.87. There were 67 total inmates that had past mental health history but no active symptoms in the last year under roster B, 17.87% of the population. 103 inmates were having current mental health issues under roster C, and they were 24.47% of the population. 3 inmates were roster D, considered to be seriously mentally ill, and that was just less than 0.1% of the population, 0.08. Inmates taking medications at the pre-release center, there were 45 males counted on this day, and 4 of them were receiving meds. That's 8.89% of the population. 11 females at the pre-release center were counted on this day, and 5 were receiving meds, or 45.45% of that population. And then at the prison, there were 214 male inmates, 28 were receiving medication. That's 13.08% of the population. And 28 females, 11 of which were receiving meds, and 39.29%. So the total percentage of inmates at the pre-release center receiving meds was 16.07. At the prison, it was 16.12, and total in-house was 16.16.
Mr. Chairman, on the pre-release center, I wonder if it might be helpful for us to have another column another row at the bottom that says vacancies. Because we continue to be spending literally millions of dollars, right, for a facility that we're using at a capacity of about 30%, 35% maybe.
That's probably, yeah, that's a safe estimate.
Yeah. And, I mean, I just wonder if we should, as a prison board, maybe put together a subcommittee that could examine what options there are. Maybe the only option is to keep it open, but I don't know that we've ever really dug our teeth into looking at, okay, if we spent some of that money in some other way, you know, maybe another bail release officer. I mean, obviously we have to work with the courts. The courts have to be able to tell us that, yeah, they could do that. They would. It just seems like we keep thinking it's going to get filled up, and it doesn't happen. And maybe it's the nature of our.
Commissioner, bail release would be prior to this.
Yeah, prior to it, right.
This is people that are sentenced, and my question for, if you don't mind me interrupting, my question is, when is PRC going to be open again?
Work release.
Oh, right, yeah, I mean, work release, that's my question. When is it going to be open again? COVID's going to be here for good. We have to learn how to live with COVID. We can't continue to have work release shut down permanently.
Yeah. Yeah, we've already had some meetings, and Manager Thompson's not here today, but certainly that's a topic that's very hot on the agenda. It's something that we talked about at the Warden's Conference too, about how other counties were performing work release. Were they doing work release, and how are they doing it safely? But I agree with you. I think there's a situation where we're moving in the direction where we'll be reopening work release and then slowly getting people moved into that program.
I mean, the intention of work release was to make sure that people that were sentenced were able to continue to keep their jobs.
Yep.
Okay, my next question would be for the DA, what is the trial list at? He's on the phone.
He is.
Sorry, I had trouble with my mute button. I think the current trial list in this term was 300 and some after diligent effort by both Commonwealth PD's office to try to make that a more manageable number. I will give court admin props this jury selection has gone phenomenally well. We've been able to dispose of a number of cases, and each opportunity that arose where a jury selection could be inserted into the schedule, in fact, that is what occurred. We were able to pick more juries this term than we have as of late. So hopefully we keep up this pace. I think we're making good strides. I'll put it that way.
Okay, because I know from working next door, one of the tools in the toolbox was as you can move cases through the system, making sure those people that had employment were guaranteed their employment by going out to PRC in their sentence. What is happening to those people now? Are they still sitting in the jail? Because our disciplinary write-ups are, you had hearings up to 138, and that seems to me is quite high, because I think people are languishing in the county prison, and we know they are languishing in the county prison, and that causes disciplinary problems.
Those languishing in the prison wouldn't really be PRC eligible.
Okay.
Those are individuals that ultimately will likely end up in state prison. It's just a matter of processing them through the system. Those that would otherwise be work release or work crew eligible, we've been relying more on EM, which I know has put some stress on APO, supervised bail, GO, etc. But if we can get that facility up and running, that certainly gives me, as you said, Commissioner, another tool in my work belt. I'm able to fashion appropriate sentences. You know, some individuals that are getting EM, I would prefer that they be through PRC, but until that opens, I don't have that option.
So what I was
Thank you.
trying to say was that one of the things that I recall us talking about is that more of the employers want the employees and are willing to take them, and they're going all day long, right, to jobs, as opposed to the folks who work the work crew.
Yes, yeah, that would
More
be the
employers are
situation.
saying, you know what, I am so desperate for workers that, okay, you're doing a DUI bit out there, come to work all day long. And so, and that's where Mr. District Attorney, Mr. Gardner, I mean, if we need to appropriate more money for electronic monitoring for those people to go home, because essentially they're going to work all day long and they're deemed safe enough to be at work all day. And granted, they have a supervisor. But if there are tools that we can use, whether it's electronic monitoring or alcohol, the FAD, things that we can do, we might actually find that we willow that list down to even a smaller number, you know?
We always have had a problem with people out at PRC getting jobs because they wanted to get out of the prison, and as soon as they're released on the parole or back on the supervision, they quit the job because they're motivated to get out of the jail or the pre-release center to work. But now with the use of electronic monitoring, we have people that are choosing not to work as much as they had been. And I agree with the district attorney. I long for the day that PRC is back open so we can put those people there instead of on electronic monitoring, because I think it also overall affects recidivism.
So Judge, you'd rather have them at the PRC than electronic monitoring. You're saying it's more effective.
Well, I think it reminds people that when you're living at home and just have a bracelet around your ankle, it's not a big deal, but PRC reminds them that it's a serious thing. You're in jail. Maybe
Right.
you're not in complete lockdown or in total restriction, but at least it's an impediment on your freedom, a significant one. You don't get to wear the clothes that you want. You don't get to watch TV whenever you want. You don't get to invite friends over the way you can do on electronic monitoring.
Okay, that's a good point that I wasn't thinking of. I guess I'm just thinking that when you look on a per inmate basis what we spend at PRC, is there a way we could accomplish some of the same goals and try to reallocate those funds? And in a way that would be at least more consistently. Maybe we scale down the size of PRC. I don't know. I'm not an expert on this. All I'm thinking is that we've been seeing the same pattern. And while some of it may have been COVID related, some of it may be related to differences in what's happening with the workforce. But I understand what you're saying, Judge. You want people to know that if they've had this DUI or whatever, that there's a consequence to it happening. Otherwise, it doesn't really sink in. And I
It used to
totally
be
get-
an incentive to participate in treatment court that you were able to serve your 90-day, 6 months, even 1-year sentence on electronic monitoring. Now, unfortunately, because of pre-release the way it is, those people are getting EM with no other responsibility or accountability to address their use of controlled substance or alcohol and the choices that they make. And that's where that's where from the treatment side of things is the frustration, because yes, we're punitive, we put people in jail, but we're also supposed to have some kind of rehabilitative component. And when we can't do that, we don't have the teeth to be able to enforce that, I think that contributes to recidivism and the desensitization of the people that are on supervision to the consequences of their actions.
And I think another important factor that we're forgetting here is the victim in the crime. Do they want to see the person on a bracelet walking the streets, or they want to see him at PRC under some kind of confinement for what
Absolutely.
they did?
That's a good point.
Yeah.
All right. Any other conversation about that? Okay, let's move on.
Additional informational highlights are that on March 3rd, prison staff participated in a clinical review call with the staff from Array Behavioral Care. On March 4th, Deputy Warden Ebner and I participated in the quarterly Lycoming County CJAB meeting that was held across the street in the 6th floor conference room in 3rd Street Plaza. On March 8th, the prison went live with telepsychiatry with our new psychiatrist, Dr. Christopher Wyatt, also from Array Behavioral Care. On March 14th, Deputy Warden Ebner chaired the Lycoming County CJAB Mental Health Subcommittee meeting. On March 15th, Prison and PRC Administration met with Cost Management Plus Representative Julia Alday to review our participation in the PIMIC program. The PIMIC program report that we received said that that's actually a typo, it should be in March, received in March 2022, indicated that our healthcare savings for the period of September 21 through February 2022 totaled $277,083.16 for outpatient services and $212,740.15 for inpatient services. On March 24th, Sergeant DeFrancisco, who is the prison's training supervisor, he provided CPR, AED, and first aid training for staff at the County Resource Management Services Office. And on March 24th, Deputy Warden Barnes, PRC Manager Thompson, and I participated in the Lycoming County Career Day that was held at the Trade and Transit Center 2 building. On March 25th, I provided a tour of the prison to several of the staff from the McCormick Law Firm. That was something that Solicitor Bluth had coordinated with me to provide a tour to some of his legal partners. And on March 29th, Deputy Warden Ebner participated in the Lycoming County CJAB Criminal Justice System Technology Analysis and Planning meeting that was held in the 3rd Street Plaza 6th floor conference room. And those are all of the informational highlights I have.
Thank you. All right. Let's move to old business, reentry program.
Okay, so I'll first begin with a report from John Stahl from APO. Program population statistics: sentenced was 20, APO was 50, domestics was 0, and JPO was 0. Total program population as of April 5th, 2022 was 70. Male clients was 50, female clients was 20. Program Phase 2 clients 26, Phase 3 17, and successfully discharged was 526. Overall individual intakes without return to the program was 1,083. Active clients receiving monitoring services was 42, alcohol 16, GPS 20, home guard 6, and breathalyzer was 0. Total amount of client intakes into GPS alcohol monitoring services was 1,781. Total days served on monitoring services by all process client intakes was 99,011. Down to juvenile, 14 active cases on GPS through geo-monitors as of April 1st, 2022. And then the monthly total intake breakdown, January was 13, February 8, and March was 19. And then moving on to GEO's report, the following statistics are from January 1st to March 31st, 2022. As of the 31st of March, current active participants was 24, with only 1 pending intakes. Since January 2022, intakes completed by re-entry coordinator was 28, 13 LSARs were completed, 13 TAPs were completed, and 86 sessions were completed. Total participants in the re-entry program who were released from incarceration was 54. 19 referrals and appointments have been made, and 55 resources have been given. Total referrals made to the in-prison re-entry coordinator was 36. 29 of those were from Lycoming County Prison, and 7 of those were from the pre-release center. Of the total referrals made to the in-prison program, re-entry program, 15 refused to participate in the program, 3 were released from incarceration prior to being seen, and 4 were referred but did not meet the criteria of the program. Referrals broken down by month, 11 were in January, 10 were in February, and 15 were in March.
So I have a question.
Yes.
Out of the 54 that were released from incarceration, they've been put on supervision, how many of those have come back either on new charges or technicalities?
I don't have that information in front of me right now, but I can get that later. I believe currently, and I could be wrong, I've had a total of 4, maybe 5 repeated referrals to the program for 2022, but those who were just in the program before with me left, came back, and then got a new referral.
Okay. Because I worked directly with the previous coordinator,
Mm-hmm.
and we saw an increase in parole violations when that person had left, because the time the person gets released from prison, processed, so the time they saw their agent was about 3 weeks. And during that 3-week time frame, they would get in trouble because there was really no plan. When that person's, what you do, was in place, I saw the violations go down. So when that person left and it was open for 2 years, we saw the violations go up drastically. So we see 54 here, that's why I'm asking that question.
Okay.
Because what you do is a very important part of keeping people on the street, especially in that small time frame from when you help develop a plan with them at the prison to the time they initially see their PO.
Mm-hmm. And that's part of what we do in the TAP, the Transitional Action Plan, is we have everything kind of laid out for them, what appointments they're going to do, when they're going to go, and when. And we also have a calendar in the back where they can mark out what they're going to do and what day.
Yeah. Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
If you could get that to us, appreciate it.
Absolutely, yes. I can look at the information and get it for you probably by next week.
Great. We appreciate what you're doing.
Yep, thank you.
Yeah.
So back to the referrals. Broken down by sentence, probation violation was 5, max out was 7, new case 14, domestics 9, contempt 1, and pre-trial 0. Going to the day reporting center, the average population per day was 70, total intakes was 19, total discharges was 21, successful completions were 11, and total participants on EM, including adult and juvenile, was 56.
Thank you.
So on the in-prison program,
Mm-hmm.
how do you feel it's going? What do you talk to a lot of the inmates?
Yes.
What do you hear?
I hear on both sides of kind of the spectrum. Some of them are very excited that they're getting that help, and then some of them feel that they're being forced into it and they don't want to do it. The ones who are excited to get the help and to get the appointments and to get the resources, those are typically my more successful ones. On the other end of the spectrum, those who don't want to do it, they tend to do it to look good on paper. And those are the ones that don't follow through at the appointments. So those are kind of the ones that maybe hurt the numbers at the end of the day.
And the referrals come from whom?
They come, it refers to the program?
Yeah.
They come from the in-prison counselors or the LCP counselors?
So
I mean,
not
I'm
every-
sorry, PRC
PRC.
counselors.
PRC. So not every prisoner that goes out is going through the program? It's only if they're referred to it, or?
That is correct.
Sentenced inmates.
That's right. Not every sentenced inmate who's leaving is going through the program?
No.
Or they are?
If they're only going to be in for a short period of time, oftentimes there's not enough time to get services, but every sentenced inmate, I believe every sentenced inmate gets referred if they've got at least a 30-day sentence or longer.
The criteria is 30 days and over, and they can't be on any kind of special courts. And even then, not everybody does get a referral because maybe they just don't want one, they don't need one, they have great resources and they're already ready to hit the ground running, so they don't need me. But as of right now, it's no treatment court, no drug court, nothing like that. And they have to have a 30-day sentence and higher. I have on occasion worked with somebody with less than a 30-day sentence because they do really need me, and I will work with those on occasion, but it's a case-by-case scenario.
You know, I wonder if we need to change the paradigm that it operates under. Like, if you're incarcerated, right? I wouldn't say this is a referral. You're going through this before you leave. And we have the right to say you're going to go through this, because on a paradigm of do you want to do it or do you not want to do it, the people who don't care are going to say, hey, I don't want to do it. I mean, I think part of the reason we set this up is because we want to make sure that once they leave the prison, at the very least, they've got, you know, all the things that we talked about, the license, or not, the ID, someone contact, their meds and everything like that, and all the things that we went through when we went through it. And maybe we need to shift the paradigm and just say, listen, when you leave this prison, you're going to have an accident, or, you know, you're not just an accident, you're going to, here's a checklist. Because I think that in this paradigm, it's real easy for the ones who are always a problem to continue to be a problem. And at the very least, before we send them back out, we make sure that we've checked that they've got all the tools so that they don't wind up with recidivism, you know, recidivating. I think it's something we should think about seriously, because otherwise we will always get the ones who have the little bit of responsibility in them participating with you. And then that big, it sounds like there's a big chunk of them who continue to sort of exhibit what I would call criminal behavior. The other day, a woman in one of our apartments gets hauled off to jail. Employee tells me that there's someone living there. Call her up. She says, well, I maxed out and I wanted to, I needed a place to live. And work with me. I said, you didn't follow the rules. Well, no, you don't understand. I said, the rule, you can't just go and do what you want to do, right? I mean, great that you maxed out your sentence, but apparently you maxed it out after a year and a half. She's on a parole violation. And you didn't have any growth in terms of the ability to make a choice, right? And so that is what my fear is that continuation of thinking that they're doing time there, they're doing their time, and then they're just going back. And I really hope, I mean, to me, this in-prison program is so important because at least we do our bit to make sure that the boxes are checked on what they need to hit the ground running. Now, if they want to get out there and just totally ignore, start dealing, so I don't know, I hope we can think about that, because I really think we need to change the paradigm.
Commissioners.
Well, as of Tuesday, I shared with Annette that with regard to the people coming out on this sentence, that they all need to see her, and that she needs to, as she probably still is, forward the information that or the appointments that she set up with the individuals so that APO can follow up with them, and that if they don't follow them, that they could be considered a supervision violation once they're out on the street.
Okay, great, Judge. So we're heading that direction. So we won't have these two categories. I mean, we still get. Do you see what I'm saying? The difference between a referral and just you automatically do it.
Yes, yes.
And Commissioner, from someone who did this for 30 years, there's an old saying, you can lead a horse to the water, you can't make him drink it. And there's only so many hours in a day. And we're gonna work with people who wanna be motivated. And I'm not personally gonna waste my time on someone who doesn't want to do what he needs to do. And a lot of times, these max out sentences, they just say, screw it, I'm not doing it, and you can't make me do it. What are you gonna do, put them in lockup? So the bottom line is, you help the people. It's like being a coach. You spend your time on the people that want to get better. You spend your time on people who want to do better and get more skills. If you spend your time on people who don't want to be motivated, who don't want to be there, then it's hurting the people that truly do want to utilize your time. Because you only have so much time as an agent, as a counselor, and you got to spend your time on people who truly want to be helped.
But you know what?
Mr. Metzger's correct. However, what I'm hoping for is if we do this with the sentenced individuals, that we don't find ourselves in a situation where we have max out people anymore, because they will have gotten the services. They will have, maybe they didn't start out to be as invested as he would like the people to be, you know, having worked as a probation officer for many, many years, but maybe we can get at least some motivation in them so that they don't find their way back to the prison.
And often it takes a life-changing event for something to click in that person's life where they say, okay, I do want to help.
Yeah. No, I get that, but it's like teaching, you know. In teaching, if you only teach to the folks who have the motivation, and don't get me wrong, it is hard to, it's like anything, it's hard to reach the people who don't want to be reached, but it's in our self-interest, if we want to keep the prison population down, to try to find a way to reach those who are, as you said, you know, not motivated. And all I'm suggesting is that by requiring them, as part of their ticket out, to go through a program that sets them up, it just can't, it has to help us. Will it change the world? No. But will we possibly reach, you know, a couple of more people? I would hope yes. And at the end of the day, I think that's why we're spending the money we're spending, right? I mean, if we always constantly go, and I understand about people hitting rock bottom, and you know, I understand all that. This is about really trying to make sure they have the tools. Listen, I've met people on the street who come out of the prison in February with no coat. No coat. And it's 0 degrees out. Because they went into prison in August, right? And we're scrambling around trying to get them a coat. You know, and what I'm saying is that you don't need to buy them a down coat, $500 down coat, but they need to at least have the tools to be able to get, you know, they're huddled up inside a doorway somewhere. And you say, well, what are you doing? Well, to get out of prison, I don't have a coat. I don't have, you know. So that was, I thought, part of the point of this. So,
You know, it sounds maybe that we're at a point where maybe we need to reevaluate the program where we are, because we initiated this program with a specific set of goals. And so if we're moving beyond that, maybe we need to take a look not only at how do we expand those goals, but do we have the appropriate resources available? Or are we leveraging the appropriate resources in the appropriate partnership agencies?
yeah,
Well,
that's no what I'm saying is no reflection on GEO. GEO, I think, is implementing the marching orders they got.
No,
I think, yeah, no, I know you do. I know you do. I think that we just need to reevaluate what our, you know, whether we're achieving.
Sounds like
Lycoming County is one of the richest counties for resources. You can get anything you need, from clothing to employment counseling to anything, rent subsidies. There's people out there that will help you. We have wonderful people in this county. But again, if a person doesn't want to do it, you can't make them. So, and we got to focus on the people that want to help. There's only so much time and so much money.
Well, I just had a case. He had denied the program a couple weeks ago, and then he was up for his parole, and he submitted his parole plan and it got denied because I had told APO that he had denied services from me. And they actually had him come back to me and we sat down, and after talking for a little while, we have him set up with STEP, and we also have him set up to go back to anger management classes because he felt that he needed them, but he wanted to get them by himself when he got out, which probably meant he wasn't going to actually get them. But now that it's set up, APO is going to mandate that he go to them now. If he does not go to these anger management classes, he'll be in violation. So now that things are changing a little bit and things are mandated, I can definitely see things getting better from here on out and the program kind of adapting at that point.
Go ahead.
Well, and I want to speak to the director's point. We were close, and anytime you put any program, it doesn't matter what it is, if you don't put in your controls to keep revisiting, because you're going to change from where you started, you're going to change to what you learn, you're going to change to what works best. We were close to that last fall. But then we had someone leave her position, and in Annette's defense, she's only been with us since October.
End of October. Yes.
End of October. So there's a whole process on her end of just learning the wealth of resources that are in this county are very complex, and it takes more than a couple months to learn your way. But we will probably by midsummer do that dive again and tinker, what do we know, what don't we know, and how, because that's the only way you manage any program that you implement, just like we just started telepsych. I'm gonna let it go 3 months, then we're gonna sit down and see what we learned, what can we do better, how can we make it more efficient, but you always have to do that. And with what the judge is saying, I think that there's some promise in that. I believe we need a team meeting to see how that works and flows. So I will get with people on the probation side because I think there's a demographic that will really fit that initiative. So we're on point. I was getting ready to do a deep dive, but then just a little flux, someone. And when you get a new person, you've got to let Annette, in fairness, she has to be able to learn this county until we make a deep dive. And we'll get there probably by summertime to do a deep dive, to look at it and say what's working, what's not, what can get better. Because that's the obligation you have when you start any new program.
And Mr. Chairman, let me be clear. I'm not criticizing you, Annette. What struck me is that we had 29 referrals to the program and over 50% of the referrals refused to participate. And so when I read that number, I said to myself, why are we giving them the choice to refuse? Because they're still incarcerated, and make them go through the program. If they want to sit in the program and not have anything and have it go in one ear and out the other, that's their business. But that's all. That's my only point.
Except for we pay for it.
Well, we pay for it, but we also pay when they come back.
Here's one of my primary concerns, being here for a while now, is that we have looked at different ways of diversion. We've looked at different ways of recovering and helping, and sometimes you might need just punishment, right? Punishment is a deterrent. And when you look at the paper and you see 76 DUIs over the weekend, makes you wonder, what the hell are we doing wrong? Okay? We're not punishing these people. Well, we got this program here for you, and we got this here, and, we're going to take care. Maybe it's time to get a little tougher on these people so that they do decide, well, I'd rather do that than have to deal with this. And I'll give you a good analogy. I remember growing up, you have heard of Cowden Country. Everybody's heard of Cowden Country. There's a reason why people slowed down when they were in Du Bois Town, because he didn't take it. You're going to get fined. It was serious, and people listened. Have we gone too far in the other direction? I think we have to consider that.
Commissioner, I taught a program for over a dozen years. It was a cognitive program. POs used to say, if you're going to that class, Scott's teaching it. And I was a PO at the time. I knew who wanted to be invested in the class and who didn't. And after about the third or fourth session, the ones that sat there with their workbook closed, their head down during the video, I'd say, you're wasting your time, you're wasting mine. Get out. Get out. You've been here 3 or 4 times. Go back and see your PO, he can put you in jail. It's time that you grow up, you're gonna be held accountable. You're gonna be held accountable.
Yep.
We're not gonna coddle you. And that's what happens too often, we coddle people. We don't hold them accountable. Make them responsible for their behavior.
All right, we ready? Move on. Any other comments? Okay. Good, thank you. Our next prison board meeting will be here at the Executive Plaza. And go to new business. Public comment? Here? None? On there? Okay. Okay, thank you everyone for attending. Meeting's adjourned.
Be down to Masters next. Yeah, that is.
Okay, we have another meeting.
Yeah, but